Greetings, fam. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I have wondered if there were levels to hell, especially during the time when I was caught up in my worldly ways. I would often think that one sin was lesser or greater than other sins. So it's amazing, but this thought came into my mind recently. I was flipping through my cable. Now that I have TV, after not having it for so long, I'm sort of a channel surfer. So I'm clicking, and looking at stuff and I pass by a lot of stuff. But I saw some movie, The Nine Circles of Hell, and I didn't stay on it because I don't like to glorify anything that glorifies Satan. But the title struck me, and it made me remember how I used to think when I was young that, oh, this sin is worse than that sin. And so I said, I wonder if other people are thinking this. And so this is why I decided to do today's video, because I wanted to answer that question. Are there indeed levels to hell? So we're going to find the answer together in today's presentation. As always, I love you. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to those of you who encourage me with your kind words. And God bless you. Let's get started. So, are there different levels of punishment in hell? Well, the idea that there are different levels of punishment in hell was very graphically portrayed in the 1300s in a poem entitled The Divine Comedy. And it was written by Dante Alighieri. And the Dante's Inferno, which is the first part of the Divine Comedy, follows Dante through hell, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. Now, the Inferno tells the journey of Dante as he is guided by the ancient poet Virgil. He was a Roman poet, through the 9 circles of hell. And the circles are concentric, representing a gradual increase in wickedness and the culmination at the center of the earth, where Satan is held in bondage. Each circle's sinners are punished in a fashion befitting their crimes. Each sinner is afflicted for all eternity by the chief sin he committed. Now, according to Dante, the circles range from the first circle, where dwell the unbaptized and virtuous pagans, to the very center of hell, which is reserved for those who have committed the ultimate sin, the treachery against God. And before I get into what the word has to say about this, I'm going to actually show you just little snips of this this Divine Comedy. I thought that was a very odd name for a piece about hell, but let's take a look at what it's all about. The 9 circles of hell, according to Dante, consist of Circle 1, which is limbo, Circle 2, the lustful, Circle 3, gluttony, Circle 4, greed, Circle 5, wrath, Circle 6, heresy, Circle 7, violence, Circle 8, fraud, and Circle 9, treachery. Now, in Circle 1, limbo, the first circle of hell is reserved for people who were not exactly sinful, but did not accept Christ for who they thought he was. Members of this circle, this is according to the poem, include Julius Caesar, Socrates, Aristotle, and Virgil himself. Circle 2 was reserved for the carnal, and the lustful are sentenced to their punishment by Minos, who is the character that's pictured here. Circle 3 is for gluttony, and that's the overindulgence and overconsumption. It's kind of interesting the way that he put these things together, because these are in effect sins in the Bible as well. Circle 4 was for the hoarders and wasters. And these were, versus the greedy, they were also wasters. So they accumulate a lot of stuff. Ever know people like that? They just got a bunch of stuff they're never going to use, but it's all piled up in the crib or in the garage, and, they're just hoarding. And so this is the circle that was reserved for them. And it states in his presentation, this is what he says, that they were divided into 2 groups, each pushing boulders against each other, which is symbols of their mundane existence on earth, with sin punishing its opposite, sin. Circle 5 is for wrath. It was for the people that, just can't control their anger. There are a lot of people walking around like that, and there are a lot of people who, as a result of this inability to control their anger, are being punished now here on earth. Unfortunately, unless they change, they will also be punished in the hereafter, according to Dante's Inferno. Circle 6 were the heretics. Now, the heretics, they denied immortality, and they therefore denied God. They don't believe that there is a judgment and that there is life after death. They are entombed in these flaming graves for eternity, since they believe that the soul dies with the body, and they will suffer that fate in hell. Circle 7, the middle ring, is the violent against God, and these are the blasphemers, the sodomites, and insurers, all committed to a profane act against God. They are laid over burning sand or forced to ceaselessly run around in circles. The sky rains fire of symbolic of God's wrath. And wow, whew, that must be something. Circle 8 is for fraud, and this second to last circle is divided into 8 parts. The different parts includes pimps, thieves, counterfeiters, and perjurers, to name a few. This circle also included people like Ulysses, Muhammad, and Jason from Jason and the Argonauts. Now remember, this is all according to Dante in his Divine Comedy. And the 9th circle of Dante's Inferno, which is the final circle of hell, is reserved for the worst sin of all, which is treachery. And it is guarded by giants. And this is where we can find the last and most important character, Satan. And this circle is frozen entirely. Now, let's go into, exactly what the word has to say about this. Because although that was a pretty entertaining piece, it doesn't necessarily ring true. A lot of us, I write books, and a lot of people who are writers, we add our own spin on things. So it doesn't make it right or even correct in terms of facts and so forth, because we have the freedom, the creative freedom to expound on the story, or to, like I said, add our own touches. But the Bible, on the other hand, is the Word. It is the truth and the light. And even though it's been, modified, and we've got dozens of different versions of it, the new translation, all this other stuff, there is still the truth within. And those of us who know the Lord and seek Him daily can discern from the truth that's within. So the Bible does not specifically say that there are different levels of punishment in hell, but it does seem to indicate that the judgment will indeed be experienced differently for different people. Now, let me refer you to Revelations 20:11 through 15. that people are judged according to what they had done as recorded in the books. In Revelation 20:12 in particular, all the people at this judgment, though, are thrown into the lake of fire. Revelation 20:13-15. So perhaps, and that's where you can find that. So perhaps the purpose of this judgment is to determine how severe the punishment in hell will be. Now, there's a clearer passage in Luke 10 where Jesus speaks of comparative punishment. First, he says about, when he's talking about a village that rejected the gospel, and I quote, he says, "I tell you, it will be more bearable on that day for Sodom than for that town." And that's in verse 12. Then he speaks to Bethesda and Chorazin, and I quote, "It will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon at the judgment than for you." And that's from verse 14. So whatever punishment the former residents of Sodom, Tyre, and Sidon were experiencing in hell, the Galilean towns that refused to hear Christ would experience more. So in effect, the level of punishment in hell seems to be tied to the amount of the gospel that a person rejects. Another indication that hell has different levels of punishment is found in Jesus' words in Luke 12. "The servant who knows the master will and does not get ready or does not do what the master wants will be beaten with many blows. But the one who does know," let me just reread that because I'm not sure if I quoted it correctly. Luke 12, "The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready or does not do what the master wants will be beaten with many blows. But the one who does not know and does things deserving punishment will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who have been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked." And that's from Luke 12, verses 47-48. So my interpretation of this verse is that, number one, if you know the will of God, like myself, I am a God-fearing Christian woman, so I know what is expected of me. But if I go and do wrong and go against what the Father has already showed me to be righteous, then I will be punished more harshly. Those of us who teach will be punished more harshly. The person who does not know will not be punished as harshly. This is my interpretation of the verse that I just read to you. And the latter part of the verse I have told people many times in terms of how to go about their giving and their sharing on this earth. Those of us to whom much has been given, much is required. So not only in material aspects, but even in terms of ministry. If we have been spared in this lifetime the retributions for the things that we have done that have gone against God, then we are expected to give much in gratitude because we were not spared because we were special. I'm not standing here preaching to you because I'm better than my friend who got shot in the head and died in a drug deal. I'm not better than men that I have been with in the past who are now in the grave. For my husband who died not long ago, I told you guys about this. He jumped in front of a train in 2010. I'm not better than him, but I was spared for a reason. Whatever degrees of punishment hell contains, it is clear that hell is a place to be avoided. Unfortunately, the Bible states that most people will wind up in hell. And I quote, "Wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. And that's in Matthew 7, verses 13-14. The question you've got to ask yourself, fam, is which road am I on? And the many on the broad road have one thing in common. They have all rejected Yeshua as the one and only way to heaven. There's no easy pass. There's no shortcut. The Bible clearly states, and I quote, Jesus states, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me." That's in John 14:6. When he said he is the only way, that is precisely what he meant. Every one of you following any other way besides the Lord is on the broad road to destruction. And the suffering is hideous, dreadful, eternal, but it is avoidable. Okay, fam, so I'm not going to belabor the issue anymore. I just wanted to point this out because every now and then we have to acknowledge how we're living on this earth. Every day, all day, we've got to order our steps. Father God, in the name of the mighty Yeshua HaMashiach, I ask you to show the people who are on that broad, wide road to hell that they have to get off. And they have to get off now while there is time, while they are alive in this lifetime. They've got to make better choices. They've got to choose wisely. It doesn't matter if there are levels to hell. No part of hell is desirable. Lord, gather up your saints in these end times and show them and help them to teach their children, Lord, because the child has to be taught young in the ways of walking righteously, so that it will be instilled in them through their days. Father, as always, I thank you for the subscribers. I thank you for the people who just passed by. I thank you for the ability to do the ministry, Lord. I thank you for my strength. In the mighty